Roll.
Senator Kerr, Senator Neal, Senator Wilson, Representative Bojanowski, Representative Huff, Representative Riley, Co-Chair Wise, Chair Reed.
Here. At this time, we don't have a quorum, so we will dispense with November 15th minutes. But we do have a fine group of individuals at the table ready to go. If you all will please introduce yourselves for the record, and then you may proceed.
Okay. Marcia Seiler.
Just turn your, go.
Marcia Seiler. I am the Director of the Office of Education Accountability, and as I pass the mic down the way, we're going to report out two reports today. One is the 2021 annual report. Brian's going to handle that. And our annual district data profiles report, Bart will handle that. So,
good afternoon. My name is Brian Jones. I'm head of investigations for the Office of Education Accountability. You folks have our annual report for 2021, and it's similar to the ones you've had in the past. It describes our investigative procedures, and so I don't need to go into great detail on that. I just want to comment on staff, some numbers that we have, and also any effect that a couple of pieces of legislation from this last session might have on the Office of Education Accountability. We're fully staffed. There's myself and 4 investigators, and toward the end of last quarter, we were down a couple of people, but we already had 2 fine investigators. I'm happy to report we've hired 2 more, and they're working out very well. They're fine as well, so we're adequately staffed. And as to what we do, you can see the numbers on page 2 of the report. There's table 1.1, which deals with the 2021 investigations numbers. And you can see there that for 2021, we opened 22 cases. We closed 27. Obviously, we had some that were hanging over from the previous year. And the chart there shows that we had 19 pending at the end of the year. I can tell you that right now, as of June 7th, that number is 25 that we have pending. You can see in the paragraph before that, apparently, COVID took its toll. Everybody blames everything on COVID, and the number of complaints, I think, were affected by that. In 2020, we had 236 written complaints, and that's significant because we don't move to even think about opening up a case until we get a written complaint. We have to have a written complaint to act on it. It can be anonymous because we found they can be as accurate as a named complaint, a complaint with a named person behind it. But we had 236 in 2020, and in the past year, you can see it jumped up to 363, which is not an unusual number. And out of that 363, 220 of those were anonymous. And you can see that we only open up a fraction of those, and I'll go into briefly the reasons for that. I think that's significant. We get so many complaints, and we turn most of them down. I'm kind of the gatekeeper on those. I read every one of them every day. A lot of times, they're just meritless. They don't even state a violation of education law. Somebody's upset or somebody has an axe to grind, and they file a complaint with us, and so there's just no merit to it. Sometimes they're matters that can be handled locally, and I really take a hard look at that because so many of these complaints that we get, I kick back to the local level, to the principal, and particularly to the superintendent. I don't have any business sitting in Frankfort trying to second-guess a superintendent on a personnel issue or a principal on how they're going to manage their school. So when it's something that is a personnel matter in particular, I send those back to the superintendent. Now, sometimes it's not just a matter of discretion, but sometimes it's either statutorily mandated or it's just a better policy to let somebody else handle it because they have better expertise. For instance, if it's an allegation about a testing violation, cheating on testing, those go to the Kentucky Department of Education. Likewise, they've got a good unit over there of early learning and special education. So if we get a special ed complaint, that's a real specialized field to get into, and we send those special ed complaints to the Department of Education. One thing that I really look for is a complainant talking about they've already talked to a lawyer or they're going to talk to a lawyer. They're thinking about going to court or they may already be in court. When we see that there's a potential for litigation, we run the other way. We understand that I think this committee and the General Assembly And myself, we don't want our investigators tied up in litigation. They don't have any business sitting in every circuit court from Pikeville to Paducah every day. So if there's any litigation, we don't get involved in it. Also, another reason for that is, anything that OEA could do, would pale in comparison to what a judge or a jury might do on something. So it's a tough call sometimes, but if there's litigation that we contemplate might happen, we don't get involved. Now, there's no way to guarantee that anything we get involved in may not end up in litigation, but we've been pretty successful in avoiding it. Also, we're not going to open up a case if it's in another forum. If somebody's got a local grievance already filed according to Board of Education policies, we don't become involved. And also, depending upon the type of allegation it is, if it's an allegation of like discrimination or harassment, we often refer people to the United States Department of Education Office of Civil Rights or the Kentucky Human Rights Commission. So we just don't become involved in those. So that would give you an idea of how come even though we get a mountain of complaints that we're somewhat picky, I am in particular, about whether or not we open up a case on it. We certainly don't run from them, but we are concerned about whether or not we should be opening up that case. I'd like to conclude by just talking about recent legislation. Effective in July of this year, the school-based decision-making councils are no longer going to be hiring principals. I looked at that to think, is that going to affect our caseload any? I don't really think so. Used to the councils hired the principals. We never got a lot of complaints about the principal hiring. The superintendents are now going to be doing that in consultation with the council, so I don't really think that's going to affect our caseload any. We may get complaints on it if we do, and they're justifiable. We look into them, but I don't think that's going to affect us much. The other one is also in July that councils are no longer going to be determining what curriculum is. To be frank, whenever councils were required to have a curriculum policy, it wasn't in that much detail anyway. We just tried to make sure that they at least had one. So the superintendent determining curriculum, along in consultation with the council, I don't think that's going to have any big effect on our caseload. So that's just some comments about our staffing and our numbers and whether or not any recent legislation would have any effect on us. So I'm available for any questions anybody might have.
Does any member have any questions about the annual report? No? All right. Good. Thank you all so much. We appreciate your all's going into the depth, and we know that every year this is something that is detrimental and integral to this process, and we appreciate it. We're going to take care of a couple items of business. We do have a quorum. At this moment, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the November 15th minutes. Second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, minutes are passed. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the Education Accountability Annual Report.
Motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Annual report is accepted. Okay, we can now move on to the district data profiles.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Bartley Quarry, and I'd like to thank the committee for its time to hear this report. I am the Research Division Manager at the Office of Education Accountability. Today we're presenting the Kentucky District Data Profiles for school year 2021. This publication won a Notable Document Award in 2012 from the National Conference of State Legislatures. This is the 14th year of the report. The first year of the report was the 2008 school year. Caution should be used when comparing certain measures over the years. Graduation, student achievement, and fund balance percent have all changed over the years. The purpose of the reports is to provide easy access to commonly used education data. It is intended as a quick, reliable reference for seeing how each school district compares to the state as a whole and to other school districts with similar characteristics. The profiles are a compilation of data from the Kentucky Department of Education and the Kentucky Center for Statistics. Much of it is housed in the KDE School Report Card that is available online. The profiles provide information about each district, including test performance, teacher qualifications, school safety, and much more. Please note that for school year 2021, West Point Independent School District merged with Hardin County Schools. For this report, there are 171 school districts. A little bit about the data. The data were recorded in by districts in two main systems. The Student Information System, usually referred to by its vendor name, Infinite Campus, or IC, and Munis, the accounting, payroll, and financial system used by all districts. Here's an overview of what is in the print edition of the data profiles. The data dictionary defines terms and parameters for assembling data and identifies the sources of the data. That's followed by 171 district profiles in alphabetical order. After those is one profile for Kentucky as a whole. At the end of the report are several tables. Those are useful for comparing districts to see where certain districts rank. For the purposes of time today, we'll present only the changes that were made in the online interactive version of the 2021 district data profiles. You will still have access to the printed version of the 2021 data profiles, and they were included as an attachment in your packets. That's the big thing that you guys got over there. As always, I'd like to give a very big shout out to Albert Alexander. He's our data guru over at OEA. He compiled all the data in the profiles and put together the print versions. This valuable trove of district-level data that OEA has compiled has been packaged in a way that's easier to interact with and can be used for future education research. We've also taken into account the following feedback from years in creating this data visualization tool. The tool should be mobile-friendly, interaction with the tool should be intuitive, and the tool should allow for quick data comparisons. There is a website within the LRC website, web page within the LRC website that contains the interactive edition of the 2021 district data profiles. Because you've all heard this report before, in the interest of time, I'll try to abbreviate the presentation. I'll guide you through some of the changes that were made in the 21 edition and some of the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the district data profiles. If you'd like to visit the page, you go right here and you can put in bit.ly/OEA-DDP 2021 ears. Right there. Thank you. Within the page, there are three separate visualizations. District data profiles, data from the 2021 school year, heat maps of selected variables, and 10-year trend data for selected variables. In order to keep the original feel of the profiles, the visualizations are going to be divided into tabs. There's demographic profiles, staffing data, finance, performance, and proficiency, which is going to be in the heat maps and 10-year trend data only. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger for people to see here. The 2021 district data profiles contains the same exact data as a print edition. You start out on the cover page with a map of Kentucky and a filter that can select district names. There are three major boxes in the demographic profile tab: membership and calendar information, race, ethnicity, and school programs, and attainment and discipline. I will now switch to the performance tab. Among other things, the performance tab includes data on student proficiency and assessment and accountability data. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the federal government waived states' requirements to implement and report most components of state accountability systems in the 2021 school year. For this reason, most components of the 2021 accountability system were not calculated or publicly reported by KDE and were not available for inclusion in the 2021 district data profiles. Also in 2021, the Kentucky Summative Assessments, or KSA, replaced the Kentucky Performance Rating for Educational Progress, or KPREP, as the state test implemented comply with federal and state testing requirements. Like KPREP, KSA aligns with state standards in tested content areas and was developed in consultation with Kentucky teachers. While the federal government did require states to administer state reading and mathematics tests in 2021, it waived the requirement that at least 95% of students participate in these tests. Student participation in state assessments dropped in most districts in 2021 and varied among districts and between student groups. Participation rates in each district should be considered when drawing conclusions about student performance in 2021, as the students who participated in state tests may not be representative of the entire student population. For this reason, student participation rates are included in the district data profiles for 2021. These rates should be taken into account when comparing student performance in 2021 with previous years and in comparing student performance among districts and between student groups. The second panel allows you to see heat maps of selected variables. Heat maps are a good way to display data about a geographic area such as a state, or to make quick visual comparisons across school districts. The first map you see is a map of the free and reduced price lunch students by district. If you look at the very bottom of the visualization, you will see a legend. The legend shows you as the color of the school district gets darker, a darker blue, the higher the district's free and reduced price lunch percentage. There is also a map inset showing Northern Kentucky school districts. You can change the measure you're viewing with the measure name selector. Some of the other measures are percent homeless, percent limited English proficiency, and percent migrant. There are 5 tabs in the visualization: demographic profile, staffing data, finance, performance, and proficiency. I will now go to the staffing data tab. Give it a moment, excuse me. Here you see pupil-teacher ratios. I want you to take note of the new map. By selecting another measure, the legend of the map and the colors of the district have changed automatically to accommodate the new measure. Based on your conversation earlier in IJCE, you may be interested in teacher experience and turnover. As you may remember, OEA did an award-winning study in 2019 on teacher shortages and supports for new teachers, which is research report number 463. I will select average teacher experience. In selecting this map, you can see which districts have more and less experienced teachers. Excuse me. By rolling over the districts, you will get more information at the district level. Similarly, you could look at teacher turnover. These measures are also available in the 1-year and the 10-year trend data visualizations. Give it a quick second there, it's internet dependent. The last visualization shows a multi-year trend line for selected variables. In selecting, as on all the other visualizations, you can select multiple districts. The default, that would be from this district selector. The default is state-level data. However, you can select as many districts as you would like. Since the default visualization shows average daily attendance, you may note that average daily attendance has remained pretty steady over the last 10 years. However, there is a small uptick in 2021. If we were to switch measures to membership, we can see that membership has decreased slightly. This follows a multi-year trend. You may wonder why there is an increase in AADA, however, there's a decrease in membership. This is due to the inclusion of full-day kindergarten and AADA beginning in 2021. Kindergarten has always been fully included in membership while only being included, kindergarten has always been fully included in membership while only being included halfway in AADA since 2021. This would explain the increase in AADA even though there's been a decline in membership. You can also select different districts. I will select Frankfort Independent and Franklin County. You may notice that you may not notice the different districts because their membership is much lower than the states. If you deselect the state, you will see that the y-axis changes to accommodate the new scale with Franklin County and Frankfort Independent. If you roll over the lines, you get more information about each data point. I now want to look at the Proficiency tab. The same districts you selected previously are carried over on the new tab, but the user can change the measure variables. The measures should be in the same order as in the print edition of the district data profiles. However, not all variables from the print edition are included in the interactive version of the 10-year trend data. For this year, you may note that the visualization stops at 2019 and picks right up again at 2021, with a missing data point for 2020. This is because state assessments were not administered in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. With any of these visualizations, you can export them as a picture, a PDF, or as slides for a PowerPoint presentation by clicking this download button. As you can see, there's an abundance of data in the district data profiles. I would remind you that if you're looking at the data on your own, to make sure you take into account that some districts may be outliers. This is especially true for smaller districts. I would also remind you that you should always go to the print edition of the data profiles for more details about the data and the data definitions. You can do that by clicking any of these links in the notes. If you have any questions about the tool or the profiles, we would be happy to stay and answer them. Also, if you would like to stay afterward to work with the profiles, I would gladly stay after as well. Thank you.
Does any member have any questions about the data profiles? All right, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the data profile report. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Been properly moved and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Data profile is accepted. Thank you all so much. We truly appreciate it. At this time, the next meeting is scheduled for October. There might be a meeting before then, but as of right now, we are scheduled for October. Is there a motion to adjourn? We have a motion to adjourn. Meeting is adjourned.